Hello everybody out there watching on YouTube, and welcome to race number 28 of Season 6 of the NNSCRA Marvel Studios Cup Series. I'm Levi McIntyre, the voice of the NNSCRA Marvel Studios Cup Series, here to welcome you to the Cheez-It Challenge here at Watkins Glen International, as we're getting set for 14 laps of racing here at a really solid road course. And before we look at the starting lineup, let's take a look at the point standings. So, after our last race at Oswego, kind of a big shakeup with the top 10 in points, although the top 2 remained the same. Jake Baskinger extended on his points lead and leads by 27 over Jessica Shelton. Third is our pole sitter for today, Rob Evans. Fourth, Anthony McCreary, and then fifth, Caleb Kilburn. Sixth is Dylan Poteet. Seventh is James McLeod. Eighth is Benjamin Miles. Ninth, Cole Deaver. And then 10th, Seth Cole. Now, as far as who was the big winner and loser in the points, the big winner was Seth Cole, who moved up from 17th to 10th in the point standings after Oswego. And then as far as who dropped the most in the points, the big loser in points would be Joshua Sekuli, who fell from 11th to 16th. Still plenty of time for some cars and some drivers to make final strides to try and end their season off on a high note. But let's take a look at the starting lineup for today's race. Starting in the last row, we have Michael Norman and Charles Sanford. Top 10, Rob Evans is on the pole for today. Starting next to him is Jake Rogers. Row 2, Emmanuel Hartnett and Jordan Forbes. Row 3, Joey Parkhill and Rafael Leduc. Row 4, Joshua Collard, Dylan Poteet. And then row 5, Jessica Shelton and James Qualls. Let's get the Command 2 fire engines for the Cheez-It Challenge at Watkins Glen.
Drivers, start your engines!
As they all get started to get to the start-finish line to get this race underway, I got a feeling pit strategy is going to be key here at Watkins Glen, considering the last several road course races we've had, pit strategy has really been a big thing. Could we see some of that here today? Well, it's 14 laps and it takes about 70 seconds to get around here, so we'll see how things play out as the pace car pulls in the pit road, so you all know what time it is. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to boogity 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 go racing. Well, Rob Evans led the first lap here today at the Glen, but look at Jake Rogers. He's been able to keep pace with Rob Evans, even though he had to start on the outside line. He's right there on the back bumper of the 88, and then back in third, Joey Parkhill, who started fifth and has already moved up a couple of spots on the racetrack within that first lap. Let's see what happens when we come here to the bus stop. Is Jake Rogers going to try and make a move, or is he just going to wait? It looks like he's just going to wait it out for the time being. But that would have been a great spot to try and make a pass. But keep in mind, remember, pit strategy could be key here, as we're bound to see these cars come to pit road here within the next 4 or 5 laps. And it's all going to be a matter of who's going to have enough fuel for the end. Meanwhile, we got a battle going on for the 3rd position between Fords, Joey Parkhill and Joshua Collard. But Collard trying to hold on in the outside line, but Parkhill's going to have the advantage on the inside going into turn 1. But look at Jake Rogers. Is he going to try and dive it in? Yes, he will. Battle on for the lead between Rogers and Evans. And it looks like Rogers is actually going to get the advantage and clears Rob Evans and got by with ease. I guess it seemed like Jake Rogers was just waiting for the right moment to make that pass, and he actually made it stick. Great job for the 56 of Jake Rogers, who actually comes into this race 15th in points. He's been relatively in between the 11th and 20th spot in points virtually all season long, and has yet to get his first win of the season. But right now, hanging on fairly strong up here at the front of the field, holding off Rob Evans, who's been one of the dominant guys of the season so far, been top 10 in points all season long, essentially. Meanwhile, back here, the battle for 3rd continues between Joey Parkhill and Joshua Collard. Collard isn't giving up easily, but Parkhill, he's just got a pretty good race car with that really good engine underneath the hood of that car. Back up here at the front, another battle going on for the lead. Rob Evans dove it in a little bit lower going into turn 1, but couldn't quite make it stick. Meanwhile, yeah, we got 2 great battles up here at the front of the field, a battle for the lead and the battle for 3rd, as now Joshua Collard finally got around Joey Parkhill to take 3rd away from him. Still virtually side by side between the 56 and the 88 as we get through the bus stop. Whoa, little overdrive on the part of Rogers, got into the rumble strips, and that's going to cost him as now Evans takes the lead back. Right now, Rob Evans and Jake Rogers going at it fairly clean, one-on-one for the race lead, at least until they have to pit. Meanwhile, the battle for 3rd between Parkhill and Collard isn't quite over, as while Collard has the spot for now, Parkhill's still lurking in the shadows behind. And all he's trying to do is just keep his car in one piece and maybe try running lower lines than the 43 in all the corners, and might be able to get a bit of a momentum run. As meanwhile, Rogers actually gets around Evans again for the race lead, as it's back and forth between the 56 and the 88, helping to create some great racing for the race lead prior to when they have to come into pit road. And now Rogers actually pulling away a little bit. Let's watch as they get through the bus stop here. Rogers actually ran the rumble strips a little more than Rob Evans did, and actually helped for Evans to somewhat close in on the 56 a little bit. But let's see about what other battles that are going on the racetrack. It's relatively single file all throughout the field, although back here, last scored in 25th, Dylan Jacobs looked like he just got around Johnny Gardner for position on the racetrack. Although it looks like Benjamin Miles, although actually no, the leaders, both leaders, Rogers and Evans, elect to come into pit road on lap 5 going into lap 6. That is huge. That means they're going to have to pit again on lap 11 going into lap 12, somewhere in between laps 10 and 12. Those guys are going to have to pit again, but meanwhile we got a 3-car battle for the race lead up here now between Joey Parkhill, Jessica Sheldon, and Joshua Collard. These guys could be in the catbird seat. If they can stay out another lap or two, they would only have to pit once. Meanwhile, Sheldon managed to get that run through the bus stop and takes the lead for herself. As Collard and Parkhill have been really going at each other virtually all race long since the drop of the green flag. For a while battling for third, and now up here battling in the top 3 again. But let's see if they're going to come into the pits this time. And Collard is he going to come in, or is he staying out another lap? No, he's coming in, so it looks like everybody's going to have to pit one more time before the end of the race. It looks like, so yeah, everybody, although perhaps those cars that just are now coming in still could have an opportunity to save gas and make it on a one-stop race, but everyone else, I feel like, is going to have to pit one more time. And the guy who managed to get out ahead was Jake Rogers, who I guess must have went with fuel only, because I think there's some cars who went with 2 tires, and I think Rob Evans might have went with 4, hence why he's fallen so far behind. Let's go back up here and try and find Sheldon, Parkhill, and Collard and see if they can still get out ahead. I don't think so, as Shelton trying to get out ahead of Jake Rogers, and it's going to be close, but I think she might be able to do it, although Rogers running about 15 miles per hour faster, but now is going to have to compensate and slow down just a tad, as Sheldon for now is scored as the race leader, cycled around as the leader, I should say. So now the battle for the lead has transitioned from Rogers and Evans to Shelton and Rogers, as they're entering the bus stop again, and Jake Rogers, with that little bit of extra speed, is going to get around Shelton for that spot. Jessica Shelton actually trying to go for her 4th win of the season to try and be the number 1 driver this season with the most wins. But right now she's going to have a little bit of work to do to try and catch back up to the 56 of Jake Rogers, who's been one of the 2 dominant cars so far today, along with Rob Evans, but Rob Evans has fallen back quite a ways in the field. Probably due to having to take 4 tires, whereas some cars went with either fuel only or 2 tires and gas. And man, Rogers has got a really fast car, as during that lap pulled away to almost a 2-second lead over Shelton. So let's actually do a full field rundown as best we can, as we're now at the halfway point. Jake Rogers is your race leader. 2nd is Jessica Shelton. 3rd is Joey Parkhill. 4th, Benjamin Miles. 5th, Joshua Collard. 6th is Emmanuel Hartnett. 7th, Raphael Leduc. 8th, Rob Evans. 9th, Jordan Forbes. And then 10th is Zachary Fitzwater. 11th is Matt McIntyre. 12th, Cody Lamas. 13th, Dylan Poteet. 14th, James McLeod. 15th is Kyle Matthews. 16th is Cole Deaver, and then a cluster of cars. 17th, James Shelley. 18th, Bradley Zorgdrager. 19th, Seth Cole. 20th, Michael Norman. 21st, Dylan Jacobs. 22nd, Chris Dollarton. 23rd, Cole Baker. 24th, Trent Dunham, I think? Yeah, Trent Dunham. 25th, Jonathan Zorling. 26th is Jake Baskinger. 27th, Melissa Alexander. 28th, Johnny Gardner. 29th is Tim Fiegel. 30th, Anthony McCurry. And some cars are coming into the pits again. In fact, Rogers and Shelton ended up coming back in, so this is really going to shake things up. As right now, I think the leader is Joey Parkhill again. Parkhill and company behind him have a little bit of a fuel advantage. They're probably going to not pit for another couple of laps. So they might still be able to pull this off, although let's try and get to pit road and see some of these pit stops. Shelton actually gets out way ahead of Rogers. Perhaps she went with fuel only as well, and Rogers, I saw, ended up having to go with 4 tires. So it looks like Shelton went with 2 tires and fuel or fuel only, while everyone else went with 4 tires and fuel. Interesting strategy on the part of those guys, but let's get back up here to the front as the top 3 stay out another lap. Parkhill, Collard, and Miles stay out for a little bit longer. But let's see if anybody else came in. Looks like Emmanuel Hartnett and Matt McIntyre are the only ones to come into pit road this time, although Melissa Alexander joins the fray. What about anyone else? I think that was everybody, so only a few cars came into pit this time by. Back up at the front, Joey Parkhill continues to grow that race lead, as he's got a bit of an advantage right now. In fact, everyone that's still out on the racetrack has a bit of a fuel advantage because they pitted relatively late in that first group of cars. They pitted on lap 6 going into lap 7, so right around the middle point of the race. Let's see if they're going to come into pit road this time or not. No, they're going to stay out, so... Although Benjamin Miles looks like he's going to sacrifice a top 3 spot to come to pit road this time. Rob Evans looks like he's going to come in. Anyone else going to come in? Nope. Looks like everyone that's still out on the track, although Jake Baskinger is going to pull in. So only a couple of... So it's like every now and then only just a few cars come into pit road at any point. So this might actually help Parkhill and Collard maintain a top 5 spot if they can keep it together, as it's now less than 4 laps to go here at Watkins Glen, as Joey Parkhill at the line had a near 3/4 of a second lead over Joshua Collard, and Collard, I can't tell if he's closed in or lost time. I feel like he's closed in just slightly, though. And just up ahead, I saw a bunch of cars who I think either just came out of pit road or have yet to pit. Let's see about the leaders this time, and... Yep, here comes Parkhill and Collard. They're coming in when they cross the line. It'll be 3 laps to go. Jordan Forbes, who was third, he's coming in. What about Poteet? Yes, he's coming in. Baker's coming in. What about Seth Cole? Dylan Jacobs. Jacobs, I don't know if he's going to get into the pits or not. Let's watch. Yes, he's going to come in. Looks like everyone else that did not get into the pits a few laps ago are now coming in at 3 to go. And I don't know who would get the lead as a result. Could it be Shelton who gets the lead back, depending on what happens with the 26 and the 43? Let's watch. So far, 2 tires. But are they going to take 4s, or are they going to try and risk it and get out ahead? Parkhill going to come out ahead. I don't see Shelton. There she is, just now crossing the start-finish line. I don't know, maybe Parkhill might be able to pull this off as he gets out, but Shelton's going to have that little extra speed, although maybe not. Parkhill might have actually just got the win there, as Shelton's a little too far behind to make a move for anything, and then Collard back to third. But how about Jordan Forbes, who was virtually a non-factor for a good portion of the race, even though he started in the top 10. He's going to come through with getting his second top 5/top 10 finish of the season, perhaps. Who came into this race dead last in the point standings. Definitely looking to try and get ahead of a couple of cars ahead of him in the points. Jake Rogers, who was one of the dominant cars, unfortunately is not going to be in contention for this win. Same with Rob Evans. Although Shelton, I don't know, Shelton's somehow closing in on the 26. So perhaps this battle for the win may not be over, as we're coming to 2 laps to go here at Watkins Glen. Joey Parkhill trying to get his first win of his career. Jessica Shelton, who's trying to get the points lead, trying to go for her 4th. And she had a move on the inside, but the 26 shut the door on her. So we could be in for an interesting finish here at Watkins Glen, as it's between 2 cars right now, Parkhill and Shelton. Meanwhile, perhaps a battle going on for the 3rd spot, Benjamin Miles and Joshua Collard. And I think Benjamin Miles within a lap, got around 2 cars to move up to 3rd, as Jordan Forbes right now in 5th, and then Rogers 6th, Evans 7th, Jacobs 8th, Poteet 9th, and then LeDuc in 10th. But back up here at the front, Parkhill still holding off Jessica Sheldon for now. Parkhill, all he's got to do is just not overdrive corners or run over the rumble strips too much, and he'll be able to pull this win off. But Jessica Sheldon, a highly regarded legend of this channel as far as the NR offline stuff. She knows how to get it done to win races. White flag is out. Let's see the margin. The margin is now nearly 3/4 of a second. Like I said, all Parkhill has to do is just keep his car on the track, not overdrive corners, and not run over the chicanes or the rumble strips too much, and he'll be able to finally get his first win of his career. And I think he's the only driver out of Average Joe Enterprises to have yet to win a race. So if he pulls this off, Average Joe Enterprises will have had 1 win among all 4 drivers. Because Kilburn has won 3 times, Melissa Alexander has won 1 time, I believe Logan Bradley has gotten a win. Indeed he has. So Parkhill's the only one out of Average Joe Enterprises to have yet to win a race. But that's about to change as we're getting ready to come through the final corners, as Parkhill's lead continues to grow as we wind down this race. Coming out of the final corner, checkered flag getting ready to wave here at the front stretch, and finally, after so many attempts, Joey Parkhill gets his first career win. He wins the Cheez-It Challenge at Watkins Glen. Great pit strategy on his part, going with only 2 tires and fuel, and it paid off as he held off a charging Jessica Sheldon despite pulling away from her at the end. Still managed to get his first win of his career. Great job for that 26 team. So now, Average Joe Enterprises has gotten a win at least once among all 4 drivers. But anyways, let's take a look at the rest of the results. Jessica Sheldon came close to getting her 4th win of the season, but gonna really close in on the points lead for sure as she comes through with a 2nd place finish. Benjamin Miles, who kind of had a pretty good fast car at the end, finishing in the 3rd spot. Joshua Collard, who's trying to finish his season off on a high note, finishing in 4th. And then how about Jordan Forbes, finally, after it's been a while, gets only his 2nd top 5/top 10 of his career, finishing in 5th. Jake Rogers, who was one of the dominant cars of the day, finishes in the 6th position. Dylan Jacobs' 2nd straight top 10 finish in 7th. Rob Evans, who's also going to close in on the points lead, finishing in 8th. Dylan Poteet with a solid run in the 9th spot. And then Rafael LeDuc with a great run in 10th. Then there's the rest of your top 20, top 30, and then the rest of the field, no cars wrecked, all 40 drivers finished. Although the bottom 5 for this week were Dylan Young, Caleb Kilburn, Logan Bradley, Carson Gum, and James McLeod. So the top 10 in points is definitely going to get shaken up quite a good bit. But anyways, thank you guys for watching the Cheez-It Challenge here at Watkins Glen. Next time we return to South Carolina Speedway for the Xfinity 400 presented by Spider-Man Far From Home. But until then, here are your results, rookie points and regular points heading into South Carolina. And this is Levi McIntyre signing off.